because I'd looked and there was nothing out there that was delivering what I was looking for. So that's why I created my own, because no one was doing what I wanted.
Amazing. Yeah, that's what it's all about, isn't it?
Right? I'm like, I'm happy to do what you want, but is it going to, no, that's not it.
Yeah.
So I put all this stuff together, worked with thousands of clients, downloads from source. It still wasn't right. And then I came across this ancient Egyptian way of doing things, which surprisingly was quite similar to what I was doing. And I was like, wow, that's pretty cool that I did that. So I started doing that and I'm like, no, there's still more. I know there's more.
Welcome to the Enlighten podcast, the enlightened journey of life. Because we're not just here to chase enlightenment, we are here to live life, to embody all aspects of ourselves, to bring the sacred into every day. I'm your host, Jen Hamilton, self-mastery mentor, tantra guide, and sacred rebel at heart. This podcast is a devotion to the art of knowing thyself. Through solo snippets, raw musings, and deep conversations with epic guests, we explore the sacred, the sensual, and the spiritual, diving deep into self-exploration and always leaving you with something to take away. This isn't just a podcast, it's a portal to awaken, to liberate, to remember who you truly are. It is an honor to have you here. Let's get enlightened. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Enlighten podcast. I'm your host, Jen, and my very special guest today is Kemina Fulwood. Kamina is a transformational trailblazer who helps people clear the noise, align their energy, and step into a life that actually feels as good as it looks. As the creator of SoulFlow and founder of Bodyflow Energetics, she's known for turning complex spiritual truths into simple embodied tools that work without the BS. With over a decade of experience guiding thousands of people worldwide, Kamina specialises in helping people break out of chronic struggle, recalibrate their frequency, and live from their soul's truth. Her work blends deep energetic recalibration with ancient wisdom and modern mastery, because true transformation doesn't come from thinking, it comes from becoming who you really are. It was such a pleasure to have Kamina on the show. We have a wonderful interview lined up for you. So without further ado, let's dive in. Hello, welcome to another episode of the Enlighten podcast. My very special guest today, Kamina. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I'm so excited to have you here. We've been chatting a little bit off camera to begin with, and I'm so excited to hear all of the epic things that you do. You work in the space of transformation, health. Tell us a bit about you and what you do.
Okay, well, I work with helping people master their lives, master being human.
Yes.
And, we're not given a guidebook in how to play this game of being human, and it makes it a little bit tough. But there is certain things that you can do. There is a guidebook, but that we're just not taught it.
Yes.
And that's what I take people through, is all of the process from, unraveling yourself and working out who you are to, detoxing your drama and your trauma that has come from past lives right through to, so I work with, lifetime trauma, universal trauma, so trauma that you've accumulated from other planets, or, ancestral trauma. So we remove all of that and then get to that really juicy, yummy place where you get to tune in.
Yes.
It's like, now that I'm, aligned, my mind, body, spirit, and my soul's aligned, I get to tune in and, align my masculine and feminine, and balance that, and really what is a healthy masculine and feminine, and what does that look like?
Yes.
And then that, fun stuff of all the intuition, of where you can take that. I had this really bizarre experience. My mum passed a couple of years ago, about 2.5 years ago. And over the past 10 days, ending yesterday, on my Facebook, in Messenger, it's you get those little photos.
Yes.
Right? And it's always the people who are live on
active
on
yep.
right?
Yep.
My mum, every time I went in there, my mum's picture was there. And I'm like, well, she's not active. I know that.
I just got goosebumps as you said that. I love that.
But she was there, and I'm like, because we chat all the time still, right? And she's like she's I have quite a few guides, but she's like my most active person. She's just like my cheerleader from the other side. She's awesome. And she's doing so much. And so she's just making herself known. I'm like, okay, Mum, what is it? Why do you here? Why are you just showing yourself so clearly on a physical way that you're there? And, a couple of things happened yesterday that were quite huge, and it was like, and then her picture went away, and I was like, wow. You were just making yourself known here. These are the things, making it so I don't miss these things.
Yeah,
because I'm always like, when I connect with my guides, I'm like, give me, make it so clear, give me a message and make it so crystal clear that I can't miss it. And sometimes you get a sign and you're like, I think that's a sign.
Yeah.
Can you just give me another one? Just in case?
More clarity, please. Can we get something? I had similar a few weeks ago, and I know the exact date of this, and it's such a funny story. So it was probably about 4 weeks ago. I was listening to a podcast, and there was a woman and a man talking about it, and she was talking about her devotion to God. And I always had funky stuff around the word God. Growing up in a Catholic society, growing up in a Catholic church, school, being exposed to a lot of things, then rebelling against that, going, that's not for me. And then really deepening my spirituality from, my late teens, early 20s, right into my, my late 30s now. But I still had funkiness around the word God. And I was listening to this podcast, and I love this woman's perspective on devotion to God, and God not like being a man in the sky. If you choose that not to be, it can be, the creator of all things, which I knew that I felt into, but I still, like, I've always had this beautiful relationship with universe, creator, divine, but never could like land with the word God. It was still sticky.
It was one of my challenges as well. And I was like, I've got to get over this, because it's weird that I have such a resistance to it.
Yes. And so I sat with it, and I was like, what do I need to do here? And I remember listening to a podcast with Neil Donald Walsh, who wrote Conversations with God. And I was thinking to myself, because, he sort of spoke about when he was writing the books and channeling these messages from God, like, I can't publish this. Like, this sounds fucking crazy. And this was in the early 90s. And I was like, it's time to listen to the audiobook of Conversations with God. Maybe that's where I need to start, because I tried to do a Course in Miracles book a few years ago, and I just found the God stuff ick. I was like, no, I need to go back into that now. So I started listening to the book, and I listened to it around, like, I think the first book is 8 hours, and I knocked it off in a couple of days, which is amazing for me. And I would just lie. I have what I call a womb room, where I've got like my beautiful meditation space set up. So I would lie in there and just listen to the book, and it just spoke to me. And then I started listening.
My mum's favorite book.
Oh my gosh. Oh, well, she's definitely here with us, isn't she? Wow. So then I was like, okay, I need to listen to the second book. So I've downloaded the second book, and it was Easter Sunday. And I was driving home from the Sunshine Coast, where I'd been with family for the day, and I had my God book on. And as I was waiting for it to start up, I said, that morning I got out of the shower, and I'm like, do I really need this in my life? Can you give me a sign? Am I on the right path going down this, like, my relationship with God, like really deepening my relationship? And I was like, throw it to the wind kind of thing. It's like, okay, we put it out there for a sign. Driving home late that afternoon, had an amazing day with my family, and I'm listening to my God book. And I shit you not, the start of the book says, it's Easter Sunday, and I'm writing this and channeling this. And a year ago on Easter Sunday, I started this book, and now I picked it back up again. I was like, holy fuck. Like, literally Easter Sunday. And I was like, okay, I'm going to stop asking for confirmation now. I get it, and then I'm going to go back into my little human self, and I'm going to forget what I was connected to. And then I'm going to come back again and ask for more signs, because that's what we do. So I get it. Like the synchronicities, to me, they represent alignment of my path. And I feel as though like alignment's very much a buzzword in our industry, isn't it? You know, you hear alignment, alignment, alignment. I feel as though we're always in alignment anyway, whether it's with the path that we're on or the lessons that we need to learn, you know, to go to do that self-mastery stuff, like to go inwards. I love that part though, because to me, that's like, I'm connected to my intuition. I'm connected to my higher self. I feel really guided. And if it's not super sharp for me, I go, where am I being so human, or where am I being so out of touch with my intuition or disconnected from myself that I need to just come back and sit with myself, you know? And I feel as though once you know that, and that it almost becomes a superpower, you know, to connect with that. And I love what you were saying, you know, when you're talking about what you do, because I feel as though life will always present us with opportunities for this grand almighty unraveling of self, you know, to get to the point where you can hear and you do know that you're connected to guides. I'd love to hear from you. Like, what was your journey that got you there? Was there like a major sort of catalyst where you're like, fuck this shit, and everything sort of had to get like burnt to the ground for the phoenix to rise? Or was it a slow thing? Like, did something happen? Tell us about that.
Well, it wasn't one giant thing. It was a lot of giant things.
You're welcome. Overachiever.
Give me one more. I haven't got it yet. No, I lived in a family who were not connected, you know, weren't very connected to their emotions at all. And there was no communication. It was one word answers kind of thing. And the only way to achieve or be seen in the family was through success. So I became an Australian champion in Taekwondo.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
Thank you. And I thought that was like going to win me like attention.
Yeah, you made it.
And all I did was just still feel just as empty as I did before. And then I worked in advertising in, you know, big corporation, like big advertising agencies, working for all your big name brands like in Melbourne. And that was just ruthless and so egotistical and just soul destroying. And I've always been driven by wisdom. So it's, you know, I had a big motivation, and that's what got me through all of these dark times. But I had chronic health issues. I was in a lot of pain. I could barely stand up for longer than 10 minutes without being in excruciating pain. And I was trying all the things and nothing was working. So I ended up moving and going, got to just restart somewhere else and see what happens. And then you know, my housemate said to me one day, you've got to go to the Mind Body Spirit Festival. And I was like, okay, all right, I'll go. And the next day she said, did you go? And I went, no, I didn't. And she goes, you've got to go. And I went, okay, I'll go. So I went to the Mind Body Spirit Festival, and there was this kinesiology stand there. And I had this thought. I was like, I've always wanted to try that. And then I was like, wait a second, I've actually never heard of it. And I was like, wow, that's weird. All right, I've got to try this thing now. I don't know what any of that stuff means. I've got to try this. So I tried this 20-minute session, and it was amazing. And it was this kinesiology school. So I signed up, and within a month I was like learning how to do it. Had no intention of being a practitioner. I just wanted to learn because I liked learning, right? This is my drive, being driven by wisdom thing. And so that was a start. That opened me up and helped me remember who I was. But, you know, life kept happening, and I was like, well, this is nice. Like, kinesiology is a nice little modality, but it's just peeling off layers. And if I'm going to peel off my layers, I'm pretty sure I've got 60 billion of them. I don't have 60 billion days. Let alone weeks or months. So I'm like, there's got to be a faster, more efficient way of doing this. And so just by asking that question, it opened me up. and it opened up all my gifts. I realized one of my gifts was I can see things so clearly. I cut through all the fluff. I can see what's useful and what's not.
Yep.
So I had a friend who I studied kinesiology with, and she went and tried some other modality, and she paid like $10,000 for this modality, and she was telling me about it in like 20 minutes or something. And I went, I reckon I can do that. She went, yeah, do you reckon? And I went, yeah. And I said, all right, do I do this, this, and this? And she went, yeah. And so I did it on her, and she went, oh my God, you just did it.
Wow.
And so I was like, okay. So my gifts were showing themselves to go, okay, it is. And people kept saying to me, you're going to create a modality. And I was like, me? What do I know? And lo and behold, next thing I knew, I was creating my own modality, Bodyflow Energetics. So it was this long journey, right? But yet it still didn't stop there. There's still way more. It gets deeper and darker. And then I was teaching this, and then I had teachers in Canada and New Zealand and Australia, and so I was being taught in 3 countries, but then I just still felt like something was missing, right? It's still, there's more. I haven't found the thing yet. And because I'd looked, and there was nothing out there that was delivering what I was looking for. So that's why I created my own, because no one was doing what I wanted.
Amazing. Yeah, that's what it's all about, isn't it?
Right? I'm like, I'm happy to do what you want, but is it going to, no, that's not it.
Yeah.
So I put all this stuff together, worked with thousands of clients, downloads from source. It still wasn't right. And then I came across this ancient Egyptian way of doing things, which surprisingly was quite similar to what I was doing. And I was like, wow, that's pretty cool that I did that, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's really cool. So I started doing that, and I'm like, no, there's still more. I know there's more. Anyway, and then life happened. I got slammed, and I went through a really personal trauma, horrific one. My partner tried to kill me.
Oh wow, that is horrific.
Right,
yeah.
and that's not the start of it. And he was in the spiritual scene, well known, and we were working with some well-known spiritual leaders on an event, and they ended up scapegoating me and following the money, and I was just shocked and mortified that all of this had happened. I was like, wow, it really shook up my world, and I wasn't okay for quite a while. And I knew all the things, and I was doing them, but it wasn't working.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, I got to find my way through this, because I can't live like this. I can't. This feels horrible. And so then I discovered new ways of doing things. I expanded a lot. And that's how SoulFlow came to be, was in my whole journey. But then it was like I just kept getting more and more, and it's like this. I know it works from experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is what I know. I've spent, over 10 years working in this industry, and I've lived all the horrific things, abuse as a child. Like I've had it all, and I've lived all the things, so I know what works. And it's like, and on top of it, I don't have children, so I've dedicated my life to understanding and mastering the art of energy.
Yeah. Wow.
And so most people don't have that space or that time. So I think that's my gift to the world, is that I've been able to do this and go, here, you don't have to go through what I've been through. You don't have to do that. You can do this.
Wow. That's incredible. And I love hearing these stories from people, because there is so much out there as far as modalities and bits and pieces. But when you know that you can bring your wisdom through, like I've got the pieces of paper. Do you know what I mean? Quite a number of pieces of paper that could be framed and up on the wall.
A lot of people do.
Yeah. And for me, there's no one modality that I follow, that I learned, that's like, this is how this is done. And a lot of people say, like, how do you know all this stuff? I'm like, I'm channeling most of it at the time for what they need, or I just know intuitively what to do. Like the pieces of paper are great because it's given structure, it's given understanding, it's giving starting points to go, okay, well.
But even my modality isn't the answer. There is no one modality.
Exactly. And there's we're all reaching a common goal, essentially, is to understand ourselves, to know who we are in order to find peace within ourselves, I'd say, ultimately. Would you agree?
Be comfortable with ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so I love that. Yeah, I'd love to hear more about SoulFlow. Like, tell us a bit about what that actually is.
Right. So, I mean, there's two paths. There's the group path or the one-on-one path of one immersion. So you go deep with me and I take you through it. So it's one element of it is you learn what I do. Like I have amazing results. Like you know, like I've done crazy things. I had this couple in New Zealand. And this is one of my favorite ones because for so many levels, is they had been fighting for 30 years, right? And like even before they got married, they were fighting. Why they got married and how they stayed together. And we're not talking, and this is almost every day. And they're not just little arguments. These are full-blown arguments, right? And they like just had tried everything, you know, ayahuasca and the best therapists and, you know, all those things, right? And nothing worked. I gave them both one session each and they just had no desire to argue afterwards. And that was probably about 3 months ago.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, so I have so many stories like that.
And so is it just energy healing? Like are you like when we talk about energy, because we generally think of Reiki when we think of energy, you know, moving energy around or certain like other energetic modalities. Is there anything that you're bringing through? Is there like when there's Reiki, there's symbols? Like, can you share a bit more about like the actual, like what you're doing or what you're teaching people how to do? This episode of the Enlighten podcast is proudly sponsored by the Sanctuary of Self, your portal to self-discovery and creating a sanctuary within. At the Sanctuary of Self, our philosophy is rooted in the belief that true transformation begins with knowing yourself deeply. Here you'll find my signature programs. It's the home of all of my Tantra offerings, including in-person sessions in Brisbane, workshops and trainings all around Australia. I invite you to start with the Flourish Collective membership, a nurturing sanctuary for personal growth and transformation. This membership offers a greenhouse of resources, including workbooks, meditations, and soulful self-paced practices designed to help you cultivate alignment, purpose, and self-love. At only $44 per month with no lock-in contract, you can access an abundance of resources, videos, ebooks, meditations, and workshops with new content added monthly. Head to sanctuaryofself.love for all the juicy details.
Yeah, so I go, it's in doing it, I break things down to some simplistic terms. What's really going on, what's essential and what's not.
Yes.
Right? I can move energy around and I can make you feel better, you know, temporarily. But it's temporary.
It doesn't get to the core of it.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, how do I get to the core and what's essential?
Yeah.
And there's 4 things essential. I need to look at the trauma, which is the lifetime trauma. I need to go to the origin, right? So it's like something's triggered you, you're feeling crap, right? Well, what's the story that's attached to it? Okay. So did it happen in this life? What's the origin? Where did it start? Because something happened, a trauma happened here. And then, you know, you didn't resolve it. You didn't learn what you needed to know or learn, get what you needed to learn or know about it. And then another one happened. So then you have a mountain of trauma sitting there. And most people are going out with a pickaxe, a little bit here and a little bit there, and wondering why they're not getting very far. And it's like, I've done this before. I mean, I've had so many, I've worked on this thing so much. How is it still coming up? Because you're going at it with a pickaxe. It's not working. You've got to get the origin. It's like a house of cards. You pull the bottom one
it all falls down. Exactly that. Yeah.
You've got to know how to do that. But it's not hard. None of this stuff is hard if you know how to do it. So that's lifetime trauma. And then you've got ancestral trauma. And so that can, I've had sometimes it's gone back 50 or 60 generations.
Wow.
People, right?
Yeah.
This stuff, like if you look at the history of the world, it's pretty gruesome. We're passing this stuff on and on. And that's basically what ancestral trauma is. It is passed in our DNA.
Yes.
But through the lines like that. And then you've got universal trauma. Once you've gotten to a certain point in stuff on Earth, then we go to other planets. A lot of us have lived on other planets, and so that's not a pretty place either if you actually really understand the universal story and why us humans are here. And that's part of what I take people through, because it's really important to understand that, because that triggers the memories within you.
Yeah.
And that opens you up to really understanding who you are a lot better. And so then there's all this stuff that's happened there. But then there's interference. So there's you, and then we have all this interference, which is, I'm just going to go woo-woo out there.
Please, yes.
Which is all those spells and curses and entities and energetic devices and vortexes, where we spiral and all of that sort of stuff. And that sits around. So I remove all of that. So then we can access all of these stories, because that's all in the way. That's part of the reason why people aren't able to access their stories. And I'm not just picking off one or two. You want to get rid of all of
them. Yeah.
Because I was sat there and I went, well, I was like, how I was taught, I was like, I can pick that off and I can pick that off. And I'm like, well, why do I just want to pick? I want to get rid of
there's
everything.
still more. There's still more. Like, why do it in such small layers? Yeah.
How do I get all of it? So that's kind of part of, like, I teach people how to do what I do, but also the wisdom around it, understanding it. And there's also these tools and practices, because it's not about just regurgitating what I do or intellectually understanding. You've got to experientially understand it.
Absolutely, yes.
And that's where it all comes into play. So I have these amazing, like practices that are either from ancient times, tweaked for today's world, because it is a different world.
It is.
And we're also time poor. If it takes longer than 5 or 10 minutes, I'm not going to do it.
Right? Yeah. Yeah.
So it's all of that. Like, if you're doing something right, it won't take long. If it takes half an hour to do something, you're probably not doing it right.
Yeah. Wow.
Honestly.
Yeah.
So most of the practice are 5 or 10 minutes. And I think there's 2 that go for 20.
That's it. Wow. So it's very sort of like, get in, let's go, let's get this done. Yeah.
Because if you know, it's just, that's how it doesn't take long. So I take people through that, every aspect of life, understanding how it all works. And then it just, and to me, alignment is, like you said, it's a buzzword, but it's misunderstood. To me, what alignment is, my mind, body, spirit, and soul being aligned with my blueprint, right? With my soul. My soul stores my blueprint of what I came here to do.
Yes.
And if I'm out of alignment, I'm not aligned with my blueprint. I'm not aligned with what I came here to do, my mission, right?
Yeah.
And that's when everything flows, when I'm aligned. It's like you were telling your story before. You did this, and then that happened. You went here, and then that happened. That's all part of the blueprint.
Yes. And it flows. Like, when you're aligned with that, it flows effortlessly. I feel like there's going to be challenges along the way. But when you're in flow, that when you're in the right place at the right time and things are working for you.
But you can overcome those challenges easily.
Yeah.
You're not like, oh God, how do I do this? Or you're stuck in it. It's just like you go, choo, choo, choo,
Yeah. Yep, they're like little potholes that you go around to get back on track. Tell us about essentially like I'm going to call it the bliss point. It sounds very blissful on the other side of this. Like if you can shift out of like the heaviness that is ancestral trauma, collective universal trauma, individual personal trauma, the bliss point that comes after that, what is it that is it something that they feel in their body? Is it a sense of like clarity in their mind? Is it all of the things? Tell us about that.
It's all the things.
Yeah.
It's just a comfortableness with yourself, which is blissful.
It is.
Right? That's it. It's like, I know who I am. It's I think it's you walk with a spring in your step and a secret smile that says, I know what matters.
Yes. And it's I found when I went through this journey myself like years ago, I decided to become one of those self-love wankers. I was like, oh, self-love, oh, it's so wanky. And I went to a self-love retreat over in Bali with my boss at the time. I was managing a gym at the time. I was in a very dark place. I'd been through a separation with my kid's dad. I was like really self-abandoning. I had taken up some toxic traits as well to get through the days, and something had to give. And so I went on this self-love retreat, and they spoke about, becoming your own best friend. And I was like, oh, this is fucking stupid. And then I was like, okay, the way I speak to myself, would I speak to my best friend that way? And I was like, no, I wouldn't. Would I speak to my daughter that way? No, I wouldn't. So why am I speaking to myself this way? And I was like, oh, I get it now, And so that very much, and this was back in 2018. And even though I'd done a lot of personal development work, spirituality work, there was times where I was really connected into that. But there were times that I guess I fell into that subconscious programming that I'm unlovable unless, and then finding all the beliefs and the proof to sustain my beliefs, all that kind of stuff. So it was 2018, went to Bali, had this massive breakthrough. Took me still a little bit of time to sort of come back to myself. And it's been this journey of, remembering who I deeply am. But, when I really, really harnessed this unconditional love for self, absolute respect for self, being so kind to myself, that's when everything changed. Like that's when and this is why like my business Sanctuary of Self, it's all about creating that sanctuary within, and it's all about, the first step to that is know thyself. You got to know who you are. You got to unpack some of the things to go, well, why do I function like this? What is happening? How did I get here? What's really going on for me? But also I'm similar to you. I teach, I'm, natural born teacher. So I teach people how the subconscious mind works, how we're all a little fucked up and what to do about it. And so for me, it was unpacking these things to go, well, where did I first decide that I was unlovable? Where did I decide that I had to beat myself up because my body didn't look like what the stereotypical, body that I aspired to be like? Where did that come from? And so when I started creating this really beautiful relationship with myself, my whole life changed. The people around me that were, once on that frequency that aligned with me as that person that I was, that those relationships dropped back. It gets quiet there for a little bit, and then you meet people that are on that, very similar frequency and wavelength, because, like attracts like. Opportunities started coming to me. I started, deepening my work, learning new modalities to understand myself and to be able to help others, really stepped into the service space and became, a leader to a lot of people in my field because I loved what I did. I understood it and I loved teaching it. And then I loved seeing people embody that as well, and I thrive off that feeling of knowing that I can wake up with, like you said, the spring in the step going, life is fucking beautiful. Like life is not here to be wasted. You don't have to.
Well, that's the key, is embracing life. It is.
Yeah.
No matter how good, bad or ugly it is, just embrace the fuck out of it.
Yeah. And and that's the thing, like I think this is where a lot of people that are perhaps new to personal and spiritual development think that us as facilitators, or like we build programs, whatever the thing is, that we don't have our own shit show. And that's a lie. That is such a lie. Like there is still so many challenges. But I feel like when you know yourself, when you love yourself, you have different coping strategies to get through it. You know, you have different ways of looking at things. Your perspective changes. You go, okay, well, what is it that I get to learn about myself in this, and how can I change it? And I think it's so important for people to understand that just because, you know, we sit here and we talk about, you know, the ways in which we've been able to move through so much stuff doesn't make us exempt from the shit show either.
Well, no, it's like the shit show's there. I mean, look at the world.
I know.
You know. Have you seen what's going on out there?
Yeah.
We are part of it, and we came here to be part of it.
Yes.
For, you know, a very specific reason, to help heal the universe.
Yeah.
You know, we're not just healing the planet, we're healing the universe. And so I think I can't just drop that bombshell and just let it sit there without explaining that further.
Yeah.
So you know, we have had other lifetimes on other planets. So by healing this version of Kamina, I heal other versions of Kamina. Right?
Yeah.
Because there has been a lot going on in the universe that needed us humans to help do that.
Yeah.
So that's how the ripple effect. It's a universal ripple effect. It's beyond Earth.
Yeah.
And we're winning.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
There were, I think, 60, 76, 80, I don't know, something like that, planets in enslavement.
Wow.
Right? They're not in enslavement anymore. That's how much we've changed the universe.
Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah, it's massive.
So there was a point. I sidetracked. You know when you sidetrack and you're like...
Always, yeah. My life is one big tangent after the other. Yeah.
I don't know where I was going.
We talked about doing like we have our own shit shows.
Yes.
You know, we have our ways of coping with them.
Yeah.
And I think you get to a point where you're like, I'm actually going to choose the path of least resistance here. Because you always have a choice point. You always have a choice to be in suffering or to be in bliss, you know, and you can have bliss in challenges. You can be like, the whole thing is a fucking cosmic joke anyway. Am I really going to take it so seriously and be uncomfortable in it? You know, we get shackled in that. We get stuck in this.
Well,
like,
if you look at my story, just for example, it's like I've been doing it for many years, and then I had a really horrific thing happen to me. And I could have sat there and gone, well, I don't know anything. Who am I to be saying this when I have something so horrible happen to me? You know, I'm not walking the walk. And it's like, no, I'm just digging deeper. I got to that stuff that had been shoved down so fucking deep that I couldn't even see it. And I got to the core, right? And I busted that open. I had the guts to go there. And that's how I chose to look at it. I chose to look at the gift rather than what's sitting on the surface. I'm like, all right, well, show me what's there. I'm not scared of it. It's part of me. It's controlling my life. I'd rather see it than it sitting there in the back.
And you're choosing not to look at it. Yeah. It's like, oh, nope, can't look at that now. It's too uncomfortable. Because when we go into, you know, it's essentially what we call the shadow, the darker side, which is like, you know, we all know that when you shine a light on the shadow, it dissipates. And sometimes it's about getting uncomfortable looking at it. But what we know to be true is that when we look at it, we realize it actually can't hurt us. It might be uncomfortable, but it can't hurt us.
Well, it's the not looking at it that hurts us. Like for me to see it, I had to have this horrible experience. Yeah. So if I had have just gone, show me the ugly, dark, ugly stuff, I might not have had to have had that experience. But sometimes we do need to have the experience too, because we've covered it up with literally so much shit that it's like I don't even know that something's there to
get through.
So that's what I think people don't realize is, you know, the more you embrace life, the ugly and the beautiful, the more you just get back to you. So having done that, I have never felt happier and in more bliss having done that. So in a weird way, I'm really glad it happens.
It's funny, isn't it? Like you sometimes, you really grow and expand through the toughest things. And it's like,
but you've got to know how to get through it.
That's it. And this is what it
will destroy you if you don't do it right.
Yeah, it can really consume you. And I love that we're seeing so many people that I think that they go through these dark nights of the soul or do the shadow work, or they and then they learn a modality and they teach. Like, we're seeing so many people step into their purpose. If it's part of their dharma, if it's part of their blueprint to be of service and to help other people. I love seeing the rise of this. Like, I love seeing people go through shifts to go, hang on, there's more to this. There's deeper stuff to this, and I want to teach this. My partner Cass is very the same. Like, he, was a tradie for a long time, and he was in the motorsports industry. Like, there was no spirituality or personal development there. And then he had a massive change in life. And now it's really funny because he's done this like massive 180. Like, he's in the personal development, spiritual space, works in the psychedelic space. Huge change from where he came from. And then reconnects with people from his past, like, people that he used to know. And they're just like, whoa, like, what is going on? But he knows, like, he's so aligned to his mission and so aligned to what lights him up. And that is helping other people.
Well, you know what I love about it more than anything? I remember when I started, in this industry, and I was like, okay, how do I sell this? And this is going to sound so weird because it's so foreign from where we are. I remember going, I can't talk about past lives because people are just going to think I'm a freak. But that's where the world was. I couldn't even talk about past lives. I would, like, even in some sessions, I was like, that person's not going to be able to handle it, so I won't even touch on it because it was about them. It wasn't about me pushing my beliefs. It was, I just want to help that person to get to where they need to.
Yes.
So it was like I had to be really careful because the world was not ready. And so I remember, trying to, just slowly forging away little bit by little bit, talking a little bit more past lives and a little bit more entities and a little bit of this, didn't even touch entities. It was just past lives was enough. Entities, like,
one at a time, please.
And so, so us people who were doing it from back then, we had to forge the way. And now it's everyday language.
It is,
And now people can comfortably step into this and go from a world of being in motorbikes and just go, now I work in tantric and psychedelics. And people go, that's weird, but it's still somewhat acceptable.
Yeah.
But it wasn't back then. So that I love hearing those stories because I know I made a difference for all the people who are able to step into that now.
Yeah. I felt being in, because I've done like past life regression therapy, and when in, a lot of the programs that I've run, what I've really found is that just by them stepping in and working with me has become a permission slip for them to really explore the depths of what that is. Like, I've worked with some incredible people that were in spiritual closets, as we call them, that went, fuck it, it's time to come out. And there's nothing, like, the world didn't implode, no one died by them coming out of the closet. It's kind of like, oh, welcome. Yeah, we've been waiting for you. How you didn't realize
this? It's not that freaky.
It's really not. No. And I've always been, I guess, because I've been in the spiritual space since, my late teens, early 20s. It's been my normal thing. I learned, how to do, readings from a very young age. I learned psychometry. I, did a lot with meditation, different healing modalities. So it was very much my normal, and I was very much the woo-woo spiritual one that people didn't quite understand. And I kind of loved that because I loved always being a little bit different in that way. There was definitely people that hung shit on me. And I felt as though, like, when I, in my sort of like mid-20s, when I got into more of the partying scene, I had to choose. I felt like I had to choose at the time between being the party girl or being the spiritual girl, because I didn't feel that they could coexist. And then, I did a lot of work around that, later on in my 30s, in my mid 30s. And so the journey to go through from such a young age, I was like, oh, well, this is me. This is what I do. I'll talk about the woo-woo stuff, and I actually don't give a fuck what you think, And sometimes I forget that for some people, there's a lot of shame or embarrassment or not sure how to step out into that. But I feel as though that's part of the journey to do the work on themselves, to let go of those beliefs or that perception of self that's not socially acceptable. And also we are seeing more of it open up, and people are like, oh yeah, that's a thing now. We're hearing more about breath work, meditation, spirituality, entities. Like it's more common, like you said. It's so more household stuff.
Yeah, it is. And which is beautiful. But I think part of that journey, because like what I'm witnessing is, people are going, I don't give a fuck, I'm just going to say whatever. But they are kind of pushing their agenda a little bit. So sometimes they come out and they'll just be really forceful about it. And then it doesn't get received. Surprise, surprise. And then they're like, oh, and then they shy away.
Yeah.
And so that's happening as well. So it's about not doing it with an agenda. It's about speaking it from your truth. But it's also, what can that other person handle? If I'm talking to a priest and then I start talking about past lives and whatever, they're just going to shut down and they're not going to hear it. So why would I bother? And having said that, I have had a pastor's wife as a client.
I love that. You see, you're on the down low.
Found out she couldn't come to me anymore.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah, it's witchcraft.
She loved it though.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? What would you say? Like, what the types of people that are coming to you that you see? Where are they at in life at the moment? Like, are they sort of at the start of like exploration of personal and spiritual development? Are they sort of like right in there, knowing that they want more? What are you seeing coming through your door?
Well, I see a bit of everything because I've lived everything. I can help anybody. I specialized in chronic health issues. So I've, helped people overcome, on death's doorstep.
Wow.
I've helped a lot of people who have been suicidal, but more these days, it's people who are who've been on the path for a while, have tried all the things, done lots of workshops, but they're still stuck. It's still like, is this it? Is it like, this isn't what I signed up for? I was told there was bliss at the end. Where's this bliss? And they're still trying, and they're not getting anywhere. And that's more the people I'm working with now. It's like, because I've experienced that. I thought I had all the things. I thought I had the answer, and I got put in a shitty place and it wasn't working. And I found a way through that. And I'm like, because I found the thing, because I was like, I know there's something more. So I found the more. And I'm like, it's not a modality. It's not a this. It's not just a breath work. It's all of this together and putting all of that information, and that's what it is. Yeah. It's a process going from the unraveling to being a leader. And it's a 7-step process, I call it.
Yep.
And I take people through all those 7 steps. And it's a 6-month journey. It's not going to happen overnight.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And this is part of the problem is everyone's been pushed, do this weekend workshop or do this 2-week thing and you're going to have all the solutions. No, you're not.
No.
You're not. Yeah. It doesn't work like that. It does take dedication, but not as much. It's like I said, like I only want 5 or 10 minute tools or techniques.
Yeah.
Right. So it is 6 months, but I take people on a journey 3 hours a week.
Wow.
And one of those is a group session or a session with me. So you get personal mentoring, and it's like, well, that's doable.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes it, and the thing is we can overcomplicate things sometimes.
Oh, we're fucking good. We're brilliant. We are the humans are just, I think, if we had to list our skills, that's up there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And impatience.
Yes. And part of this work is actually realizing that it doesn't have to be that way. That there is so much beauty and simplicity as well. So I love it.
Well, the simpler it is, the generally is the correct way to do it.
Yeah. Just this almighty unraveling. So tell us, how can people find you? So obviously we'll link to, your website in the show notes, but do you see people in person, online? Tell us about that.
So I'm online. I work with people all over the world. So you can go to my website, which is bodyflowenergetics.org, and check out SoulFlow, which is my latest, baby, which is I've birthed into the world. And so you can check that out on there.
Beautiful. And I've got one last question before we wrap this up. Kamina, to you, what is the meaning of life?
The meaning of life is to grow and have fun.
Yes, I love the have fun part.
Well, it's actually essential.
It is.
People, especially in the spiritual scene, they forget the have fun part. Yes. They're on these healing cycles, loops, and they're just stuck in healing. And it's like, that's not what I signed up for.
Yes.
Like if it's not fun, you're not doing it right.
Exactly that. I feel like there's just so much seriousness in it.
Oh my God, get over it.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for being part of the Enlightened podcast, for sharing your wisdom, sharing your light and your beautiful energy. So we'll link to everything in the show notes. Thank you so much for joining us.
See ya.
Thank you so much for joining me for this episode. I hope you love the Enlightened podcast, and the biggest compliment you can give me is subscribing to this podcast, sharing it, and leaving a rating and review. Feel free to follow me on Instagram. My handle is @JenHamiltonOfficial, and the podcast handle is Enlightened_podcast. You can also find the video version on YouTube on my channel. Just search Enlightened, and don't forget to hit subscribe. Have a beautiful day and enjoy living the enlightened journey of life.